Hi, today I'm going to share with you evidence-based revision method for studies tips. Actually, no one really teaches how to learn. In school, we are taught what to learn but not how to learn. Studies show that the techniques students think are very effective often tend not to be one most effective. So the structure of the video will be like first I'm gonna talk about popular but inefficient techniques like reading, highlighting and summarizing or making notes. And in second session we'll be discussing about active recall and the evidence behind why it's the most effective revision strategy. And in third session, we'll be discussing specific practical strategies for incorporating active recall in your revision or study routine. Highlighting, rereading, and summarizing or making notes. Even though they are most popular technique, they are not very effective. So first of all, I'm gonna check the rereading. Okay, so let's begin the session with what Dr. Dolowski says about rereading in his paper Improving Student Learning with Effective Learning Techniques Promising Directions from Cognitive and Educational Psychology. So here is what he says in his paper on rereading. Based on available evidence, we rate rereading as having low utility. Although rereading is relatively economical with respect to time demands when compared with some other learning techniques, rereading is also typically much less effective. The relative disadvantages of rereading to other techniques is the largest strike against rereading and is the factor that weighed most heavily in our decision to assign it a rating of low utility. So, what he says that even though it is the most popular learning method, it is the low utility method or ineffective method. So, first of all, we all know that rereading is most popular read study method, and if you ask yourself or your friends, you will realize it. The question is rereading effective? So here we got what Dr. Dunlowski states us. Then let's check now the evidence which show rereading is not so effective. It is from a paper, A Powerful Way to Improve Learning and Memory, Practical Retrieval Enhanced Long-Term Meaningful Learning. It is by Jeffrey. So here is what he says. A wealth of research has shown that passive repetitive reading produces little or no benefit for learning. Yet, not only was repetitive reading the most frequently listed strategy, it was also the strategy most often listed as students' number one choice by a large margin. So that's what this is about rereading. Now, even though it's ineffective, the rereading, students continue to use it. It is very popular among the students. So now let's check the highlighting, the method highlighting, the most interesting method. Personally, I like to highlight using different colors in your textbook, in your notebook. That's interesting quite. So let's check what the scientific world tell us about highlighting. Let's go back to the Dr. Dunlowski's paper. So the first guiding here is on the basis of available evidence, we rate highlighting and underlining as having low utility. In the most situations, highlighting does little to boost performance. It may actually hurt performance on higher level tasks that require inference making. Future research should be aimed at teaching students how to highlight effectively. Given that students are likely to continue to use this popular technique despite its relative ineffectiveness. So that's about highlighting. So that is also not so effective way of revision or learning. Now let's check summarizing or note making. Some studies show that students who summarize well performs well in exam. Let's check what Dr. Donlowski has to say about highlighting. On the basis of available evidence, we rate summarization as a low utility. It can be an effective learning strategy for learners who are already skilled at summarizing. However, many learners, including children, high school students, and even some undergraduates, will require extensive training, which makes the strategy less feasible. Some studies show that students who summarize well performs well in exam. But the thing is, the quality of notes varies massively. If you know how to make notes effectively, it may affect your exam too. It can bring good results. But if other very effective method is available, probably we are wasting our time. That's what we did all our life. So if we knew the rules, the scientific methods, proper ways to learn things, we could have saved many years of our life. That's my point. Making notes is fun if you enjoy it, but it's your choice whether you choose or whether you should follow a less effective method or not. That's up to you. Especially since I have seen students who makes wonderful notes, thick notes, fail to score sometimes. They spend hours and hours on single topic, and that shows your inefficiency. Now, so we have discussed the most popular and ineffective ways or methods of revision or study. That is, highlighting, summarizing, and rereading. Now, let's check what is most effective way of learning or revision. That is, active recall or active retrieval. Is retrieving facts from our brain effective? Yes. The active recall or active retrieval is a process where you retrieve facts from our brain. So first of all, let's check what Dr. Danilowski has to say us about the retrieving process. Let's see what's his findings. On the basis of the evidence described above, we rate practice testing as having high utility. Testing effects have been demonstrated across an impressive range of practice test formats, kinds of material, learner ages, outcome measures, and retention intervals. Practice testing is not particularly time intensive relative to other techniques, and it can be implemented with minimal training. Finally, several studies have provided evidence for efficiency of practice testing in representative educational contexts. So, retrieving stuff from your brain actually strengthens the connection between the facts in your brain. We may have heard that when you teach a topic someone, you learn it better. So this is the secret behind it, because when you teach someone, you are actually retrieving the stuff in your brain, isn't it? So we have assumption. The process of studying is just to put things in your brain and taking them out for exams. But retrieving stuff from your brain is far better than putting stuff back to your brain. That's what the study says. If you want to dig deeper, I can suggest you a wonderful book, that is Make It Stick: The Science of Successful Learning. So we have discussed which is the most effective way of learning. Well, now we have to bring it to practical. So how to use it in our daily life? That is active recall, specific strategies you can use. So you need cognitive effort or brain power to recall things, pretty much anything. So in that, the first thing is Anki flashcards. Regarding the Anki flashcards, I'll be making a separate video explaining everything to you. The second one is making notes by the books being closed. Suppose you read a book, then what you have to do, instead of highlighting, making notes and rereading, just close the book and make notes. And after making notes, you can again recheck it by opening your textbook. You can check what you missed, what you remembered, everything. Now, Corneal note-taking system. Sort of actually. It is that when you listen to lectures or when you are studying, instead of making notes, write questions based on the topic. So when you when you try to answer your question, it makes to help connection between the information you have, and retrieving information from your brain strengthen the connection. So that's how it works. First you have to write questions while you are listening to lectures or while you are studying. Second, this question. After the lecture, you can try to answer these questions so that it makes the connection between the information, and finally retrieving them strengthens the connection. And the ending note is that you should realize every progress happens out of your comfort zone. It is true that most effective technique for you is the one which seems effective for you. But you should also remember, unless you experiment or test some new technique, you can't understand which one is more effective for you. Hope you'll find your own one. Thank you for the day.